Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
Do you keep law firms and accounting firms to suggest to the seller to speed up the process? Ones that may be friendly?
Friendly sellers or friendly law firms?
No, friendly to us.
Well, I mean, you mean their lawyers or our lawyers?
Well, I assume most of these guys are not going to have M&A lawyers.
No, well, I mean, we haven't got to that yet, but you're not going to do a deal with anybody that doesn't have lawyers.
Oh, okay.
The worst thing you can hear, and the best thing you think you can hear, is that, we'll use your lawyers. And you connote that as being motivated. Wrong. Then go to court and say you fucked them. If they're smart enough, that's why they're doing it. And if they're Turkish, Egyptian, Pakistani, etc., that's exactly why they're doing it. But you're going to think, because you're stupid and you're a cunt, whoa, Mr. Peña, he was wrong. It's not going to be that hard. So unless they have a lawyer, you're not doing a deal. Now, we have a handful of people that have done deals with the seller having no lawyer. And it hasn't ended in tears every time, but more than 50% of the time. And if your lawyer is not friendly, or not friendly is not the right word, working for your best interest, then you got the wrong law firm. I've never had a deal not close that was on a success fee basis. Because the lawyers realize they're not going to get paid. The accountants realize they're not going to get paid. Okay, did I answer your question? Any other questions? Last night when we ate in the pub, which you enjoy more than eating because you're poor and you like to swap bullshit stories with each other about your, you don't call it about your poorness, but I mean, and you feel comfortable swallowing in the slop of the pigs. And that's why you like it. That's your comfort zone. And it wasn't a test yesterday because all the groups are the same. I tell the young kids, don't talk to anybody because you're only going to hear shit. I think I might have mentioned the 14-year-old one's here, Carlin's son, and I asked him, he said, am I right, Mr. Peña? They just talk bullshit. They talk about shit that if you Google check facted, it was a lie. It would be a lie. Why do you do that? I know somebody talked shit last night. I was trying not to listen. But I mean, why? Because you've got to justify your existence in some way. Unfortunately, when you did it with a 14-year-old kid and the Carlin kid, who ate everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody alive in the seminar, because you've got to come up with excuses, just like you have come up with an excuse to stay with the significant other you have now. I still remember my second mother, and when she was on her 95th birthday, we took her to Spago's in Beverly Hills, which is a Wolfgang Puck restaurant. And she whispers, we're talking about her husband. I never had the balls for 30 years to leave him. Just like, what time is it? Some of you in this room, maybe not 30 years worth, but you can relate to that. So we continue to build. I have a slide. I'm not using it, but I used it in Omaha, a big pile of dinosaur shit that's about 5 feet tall. And I said, this is from the movie Jurassic Park, or one of the Jurassic Park movies. This is your sum total knowledge of what we're about to talk about. But it's not a little bit of shit, it's a lot of shit. Because it's easier for you, not just you, but I mean the general population, to go listen to stuff that reinforces the shit that you want to believe that has led you to nothing so far. So you continue to go. And that's why a lot of the gurus have such big followings. And I have the smallest social media following by a factor of 10% of what they have, a lot of the guys. And yet the other guys have produced no numbers, nothing. Because I tell you, it's hard, and most of you will fail. Yet you still come, okay? So you're either a masochist, and we've had a few of those too, but does anybody else put up numbers like this? No. When I first started in May 1993, and Bruce Whipple was at my first seminar. He was at my first 15 or 20 seminars. And I used to do the seminar, as I've told you, in one day. There's maybe 10% more information now than there was in 1993. But it's a week. And in 1993, I told you, no handouts, no coffee, no shit, no breaks, no nothing. You just rammed through. Just kept running towards the gunfire. And I thought that this was it. And everybody paid $1,000. 60 people paid $1,000 a head to be there 18, 20 hours. And I thought, this is the easiest fucking gig. You know, I said, how long will it take me to be in front of 1 million people? I was, and so the first year I did 22 seminars. 22. I couldn't do 22 seminars in a row now. I'm not as good a shape as I was 28 years ago. And about 25 seminars into the deal, I was in Atlanta, I think. And I was a tired motherfucker. And fuck. But I had these scheduled already. And so, well, I'll just drop dead at the one of them, and I'll make history that way. But we're saying exactly the same thing. The only difference now then we have crowdfunding. That's the only difference. And I've never personally done a crowdfunding deal. But I've had a jillion of you do crowdfunding deals. And the world record for crowdfunding is held by one of my mentees. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. The deal was sold out. 2 minutes and 32 seconds. It was a real estate deal by Marcus Bauer. And he got so annoyed with the thousands of people, he bought them all back within 30 days. Gave all the money back. Because he thought that they just give him the money and leave him alone. When you go to his office in Austria, the parking lot's full. 5, 6 in the morning with you, meatheads, looking for some secret words from Jesus. He cannot travel because they want him to touch him like Moses or something. Last night you saw whom? Nick, who I know and talked to, tried to get him here a couple times years ago. He's a cantankerous old bastard. Doesn't remember his wives, 7 or 8 of them. He's actually got more than that wives. He can't even remember the numbers. I was going to meet him 2 years ago at the U.S. Open tennis in New York, Flushing, I guess it is. And Corona, and anyway, so that never happened. But we had a guy here in the seminar from South America who attended the tennis camp 15 years ago. And he sat right back there in the back seat. He sobbed during the whole time. Apparently, I wasn't here for the movie because I don't see it at night. But when we talked about it like we're talking about it now, he just sobbed. Because he says, you have no idea how ruthless and how debilitating it is to go through those camps. And to use a phrase that I use quite often, if you want a friend, buy a fucking dog. I mean, he was just a beast. And he doesn't know how to play tennis. But you want to know how to code, or you want to know this. Okay, all these people that we're going to talk about the rest of the week don't know how to do what they're famous for. But that still won't send you the message. Because you're past it. You can't help yourself. Like the fucking Nympho. I can show you 1,000 high-performance people that have the same MO. 1,000. I can show you 10,000. Now, I'm not so sure there's more than 10,000 high-performance people on the planet. So I'm not going to say I can show you 1 million because there's not 1 million high-performance people on the planet. I said yesterday, you read books on sex, and it's, the best book that you ever read isn't like sex. And there's guys running around. I've read 700 books, and what would you rather listen to? Somebody that's read 700 books or done 700 deals? But you apparently would rather listen to somebody that's read 700 books, because most of you follow those guys. And the sad thing, Doc, is they're going to continue to follow. I'm only a speed bump in their life. For most people that attend the seminar and pay reasonable money, although the cost's going up next year, I'm just a speed bump in your life because I'm the only one that tells you you can't do it. Default's a bitch. And it's very easy to go back to default. And whenever I look at you, New Zealand, I think of the girl that gave up her mother a heart attack. Forevermore, that seat is holy. And they didn't even fucking tell me. Now that's, to me, is the epitome of sacrifice normally for a woman. A woman, a daughter's a daughter the rest of her life. A son's a son until he takes a wife. For a daughter to cut her mother down, not in the prime of life, the old fucking hag. I mean, it makes my dick, I'm embarrassed. I'm starting to get a hard on. It's going to start showing down to my knee. It gets me off so. Because she's serious. Now, I know plenty of sons that would give their mother a heart attack and a heartbeat and not even think about it. But a daughter. What about Nick? Other than he can't play tennis, and he's hurtful to people. Yeah.
He didn't care about the why, only the how.
Gee whiz, I can't believe it. Oh, Canada's going to say something. Our rabbi from Canada is going to open his mouth. What do you have to say?
It was very interesting when he basically didn't remember any of the good or bad mistakes he made in the past. He kept on saying to the director, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I just took action and that's it. Whether good or bad, he just pulled the trigger and moved on.
Well, when I was little and my dad said, you don't start fights, but you always end fights. And the fights ended when the brains of the opponent are oozing out of their skull. That's the training I got. The brains are oozing out of the skull. Then the fight's over. And unfortunately, I followed my dad's advice, his lead. I told you when I went back to visit the grammar school that I went to, that Marilyn Monroe also went to, and we're going around the yard, I already said this, and to the principal. We hadn't gone up to the room where I dropped the aquarium on the guy yet. I said, this is a 4 square, I broke a guy's arm in 7 places here. And then we go, I put a guy's eyes out over here. It was memory lane. And every time I said something like this, Sally just winced, and the principal was going to cry. Because he felt that I felt sadness about it. Well, he couldn't be more fucking wrong. I mean, I was having jollies. And I remember the kid's arm that I broke in 7 places. I knocked him down, and I heard something snap. Then he got up again, and bam, I bammed him again, and he fell down. He said, you broke my arm, his arm. I go, now the fucker's broken, kid. Now you got a broken arm. Can't you imagine that on CNN now? Fuck. What else about Nick? Sir, Doc.
The mental game was the only game in town.
And it is the only game in town. The game you're least prepared to fight. And it's a fight. And it's a war. But you're least prepared for it. And unless he had 185 or something world champions or something like that, as I recall. And there was nobody. And remember, first is up here. Second is some guy's got 25 world champs. And who are you going to? The guy that got 3 world champs, if at all. One, because they're affordable. And one of the things I tell you is go to restaurants you can't afford, join a club you can't afford, get lawyers you can't afford, get accountants you can't afford. And you've done just the opposite. You get what you pay for. You're going to hear the Goomba brothers, the gangsters from Cuba, 2 Cuban brothers, that say that Dan's spot on. He says, we got the lawyers we couldn't afford, but this big deal that they're going to describe to you on the webinar, we would have never got it done without these guys. There's a certain cachet, there's a certain gravitas that goes along with the big guys. The big guys. What else about Nick? Yes, sir, in the back.
I thought it was interesting that he had enough integrity to train one of his protege's opponents to defeat him.
And when he sold out to IMF, I think it is, the big management company, about 15 years ago. But getting back to the kid that came to the seminar who was sitting back in the corner, he says, I still have emotional scars from going through that 2 years at the tennis camp. Still got emotional scars. But then when everybody, you were all feeling sorry for him and empathy or whatever you were feeling. And then I said, are you more successful now? He says, yeah. I already knew the answers because I saw his paperwork. Are you more successful now? Yeah. Are you infinitely more successful now? Yeah. And I had several other questions, and the answers were all affirmative. What do you think of Nick? He's a bloody asshole. Mm-hmm. But who do you attribute your success to, your parents or Nick? He goes, Nick. You couldn't hardly hear words come out of his mouth. Yeah. What? I can't hear you. Nick. But you have gone out of your way to avoid confrontation all your lives, all of you. There's a couple of you in the room that have had some glorious moments. But other than that, you look to avoid confrontation. And since I'm the one sitting up here giving the talk, I've never done anything to avoid confrontation. I always look for trouble. From when I was a kid through today. I just saw an email. And there's a couple of emails. I'm going to read parts of it to you that successes. And they wake up, I did 3 deals since your last seminar, blah, blah, blah. But one of my fellow directors, I would say, is in shock because of some of the actions I'm taking. And he's in shock because the actions I'm taking could be him next time. I've been on some boards probably 10 years. And I'm not friendly. I don't play tennis when I used to play tennis. I don't go to dinner with them. I don't do anything. Instead of, as I said yesterday, when in the gangster movies, it's not personal, it's business. Well, everything's personal to me. There is no business. Anything else about Nick? Yes, sir.
Nick always followed his gut feeling. He didn't engineer around. He just followed what he thinks is right.
And you Google it and spreadsheet it. We have some people that are, from when you came to the seminar in 2020, that are still spreadsheeting the deals. They haven't picked an industry. They haven't. The biggest insult I can tell you, what are you, a spreadsheeter? That's the lowest form of life to me. Because unless you change the input, the data, and you hit the send button, the fucking result's going to be the same time after time after time. Unless you change the input, garbage in, garbage out, but you're still spreadsheeting it. When I tell you healthcare, I'm telling you what motherfucking Jesus Christ knows. How did I know in 1986-ish that when healthcare was growing at 6.5% a year worldwide, that in 2022 it would be growing a little less than 22% a year worldwide? How did I know that? I just saw another chart. I get a lot of stuff because I worked for the Chinese government back in the day. In 1960, the life expectancy in China was 47 years old. It was 70.1 years old in the United States, 1960. In 2022, the life expectancy in the United States is a little less than 75 or about 75. And in China, it's 71. Now, somebody's doing something right, and it's not us. And I talk as if we were all Americans, and we're not. As much disdain as a lot of us have for China, they're doing something right. Part of that doing something right is they don't allow the people to have any fucking rights. I'm going to say that slow because I can tell that it's like you all have a bad hangover. Well, maybe some of you do have a bad hangover. They're doing something right, and it's because they give them little or no rights. Not everybody deserves a fucking opinion. How did Hitler get a fifth of the world to go along with his bullshit? How? How is that fucking possible? To eliminate, the final solution to kill off the Jews. How? He walked into Austria, he didn't fire a bullet to take over Austria. How is this possible? Because there is a deep, ugly underbelly to the human race, which Donald Trump found. And I'm not saying we don't have to go all the way that way. But what you have to find is your deep underbelly. You will equate it to having balls and being, as you asked me, how tough do I have to be as a gal? Remember? Okay, New Zealand. I love New Zealand, by the way. I don't know how anybody gets any work done. Slappy, happy, flip-flops, cut-off jeans or whatever, a Hawaiian shirt that you had 15 years that's so faded you can't even see the colors. That's cool, But it's like Akeria, the Greek island where they live to be 120, 118. There is no commerce. Nobody's got a pot to piss in their window to throw it out of. They eat reasonably well. They have a lot of sex, which I'm okay with that. But they don't do anything. Well, you're on the 120-year program because you're not doing anything either. You think you're doing something, but you're not. Compared to TK, even myself, that I'm only working 50, 60 hours a week now because I'm retired, or Josh, 140 hours a week, you're doing nothing. You're pretending. But the good old boys up there, having mint juleps or old fashions, but you haven't done dick. And your results reflect you haven't done dick. So now we've listened to three luminaries that don't know anything about what they're doing. Yet they're the top of the heap. Or near the top of the heap. And then we've got you that wants to know everything about everything you do and spreadsheet it to fucking death. And somebody in this room will not have chosen an industry a year from today. I bet £1 million once to a pound. There's a pound framed up there. A guy, I bet him. And when I bet £1 million, I mean it. A lot of time passed, and then he sent me a letter with a pound. How did you know I wasn't going to be able to do it? But he sent the pound, an Indian guy. He sent the pound. I bet £1 million a pound, not 500 times, but at least 100. And I've never lost a bet. When I tell you you're fucking dead, you're fucking dead. Her biggest problem in New Zealand is going to be New Zealand. The whole motherfucking island, and the island she lives is default. She doesn't have to go someplace to find default. It is motherfucking default. Beautiful. Paradise, but still default. So, and we discussed that on one-on-one because we've had other successes from there. But when I started the seminar in 1993, they said that you can't do it in South Africa or Australia. One, because the Australians were prisoners, that they came over from England, 200 years ago, and they were brain dead there, and the sun baked their brains. In South Africa, because it's black, and the blacks weren't as smart, and they wouldn't be able, all the old bullshit tales. And of course, now we've been successful, super successful in both places. And Nelly, the young black kid that is crushing it. And I brought one of his deals that he emailed me, he just did. Okay, YouTube, thank you.